O God, Creator and Father of all mankind, to you we turn at the beginning of this day for your blessing. Grant us, we beseech you, ardently to desire, prudently to study, rightly to understand, and perfectly to fulfill that which is most pleasing to you. To you we commit ourselves and all that is ours, our thoughts, words, and deeds. Make our hearts pure and chaste, meek and humble. We desire to love all men for the love of you, who are the Father of us all, whom you shine on your children, whether good or evil, rich or poor, exalted or humble, in condition. Grant us understanding, sympathy, and charity for one another. Bless our parents, our family, our teachers, our friends, and our enemies, that all may come to know you, love you, and possess you in eternity.
Thank you, Pavitra. A pleasant evening to everyone gathered virtually. Let me start the welcome speech with the words of Michelle Obama. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. You may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all the world's problems all at once. But don't ever underestimate the impact you can have because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Michelle Obama. Although the pandemic situation with second wave of COVID-19 adversing effectively, we can always pass on the courage and hope to our fellow beings. Along with the precautionary measures, we can easily get through this antagonistic state. I'm indeed honored and privileged to introduce and welcome the speaker of the webinar, Dr. Vasanth Raj. Dr. Vasanth Raj is an eminent speaker and a researcher in pharmaceutical sciences as well as biotechnology for nearly 2 decades with experience nationally as well as international reputed institutions. He graduated from the KMCH College of Pharmacy, Coimbatore in 2002, subsequently completed his master's degree from JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty in 2005 and PhD in Pharmaceutical Sciences from Manipal University, Manipal, India in the year 2011. Dr. Vasanth worked as assistant professor in Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Manipal University from 2005 to 2012. Later, he had the privilege of serving as an associate professor in the Faculty of Pharmacy, AIMS University, Malaysia, till 2016. For a long, he worked as lecturer in Faculty of Pharmacy in the prestigious Queen's University of Belfast, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom, and Queen's University Overseas Campus with China Medical University in Shenyang, China, till August 2019. From September 2019 to October 2020, Dr. Vasanth worked as research officer at Sri Ramakrishna Hospital, Coimbatore, as clinical site coordinator for phase 4 clinical trials and coordinator for external company sponsored projects between hospital and multinational companies. At present, Dr. Vasanth is working as assistant professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Biotechnology, JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty. As a faculty member, Dr. Vasanth is actively involved in teaching and research with keen interest in niche areas of biotechnology, gene expression, and cancer biology. He has 7 research grants, 37 publications, 17 research presentations, 1 textbook chapter contribution, 2 travel grants to his credit. Further, Dr. Vasanth has also received Excellence in Academic and Research Award 2016 and Best Research Paper 2013 awards from AIMS University, Malaysia, and Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, India, respectively. He has also received the Most Popular Teacher Award in 2017 from China Queen's College. Dr. Vasanth is also one of the recipients of prestigious travel grant from Queensland Institute of Medical Research, Brisbane, Australia. We are indeed fortunate to have such a dynamic academician and researcher amidst us today. With deep appreciation, I welcome you to this webinar and I wish to express my thankfulness for having accepting our invitation to deliver a talk on vaccine science in India. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your kind introduction.
Okay. What you do for has far greater impact than what you say. Action always speaks louder than words. One such action-oriented person is our beloved principal, Reverend Sister Dr. Helen, who is behind each and every academic endeavor of our department. I wholeheartedly express my gratitude for her constant encouragement and blessings. I also thank our secretary, Reverend Sister Dr. Ruby Alankara Mary, And Vice Principal, Reverend Sister Dr. Mary Fabiola, for their wishes and prayers. I collect my gratitude to our Controller of Examination, the Reverend Sister Dr. Emelda Mary, Dean of Academics, Mrs. Valencia Kamal, Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Mrs. Mary, and IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Mrs. Pauline Vasanthi Joseph, for their wishes and prayers. I record my sincere appreciations to Dr. Carolyn Rosario, Head of the Department of Botany, for her constant encouragement and support. I put forward a genial welcome to the heads of departments, members of faculty, and students of our department and other departments for this webinar. Last but not the least, I extend a gracious welcome to the participants from other institutions. Hope this webinar throws some insights on vaccines in India. Thank you. Now let's start the session. Over to you, Dr. Vasanth.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Shiva. Before, can I have permission to share my screen? It says I have been disabled to share my screen.
Bhuvaneshwari,
Or I can.
Ma'am,
please permit him to share his screen, ma'am. Bhuvaneshwari, you need not share your screen, ma'am. When sir is asking to share screen, you have to permit him.
Dr. Vasanth, can you share your screen now?
Yeah, let me check.
Yeah.
No, it's still the same thing. Or should I send you the PowerPoint to your email or something?
Yeah. Can you please share it? Yeah, just a minute.
It says the host has disabled the participants from sharing their screen.
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, just a minute, please.
I can forward you the email in email.
Yeah. Please forward. By the time I'll sort it out. Just a minute.
Yeah, I have sent an email to you, Dr. Shiva.
Yeah, 1 minute. Bhuvaneshwari, I sent an email, ma. Just open and share your screen. Bhuvneshwari,
Ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
okay, okay. You just download it and you share it screen.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, I think Dr. Shiva, I got the access now.
Okay, okay, okay.
I'll try to share it now. Just please confirm if you are able to see the slides.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
We can
ma'am.
see your slides. You can continue.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening to all the members of Nirmala College of Women, Coimbatore, and thanks for the nice introduction, Dr. Shiva. I take this opportunity to say my thanks for your invitation. I convey my thanks to your respected principal, your vice principal, the secretary, the chief patron of this program, the patron officers, the conveners, and the coordinators, and all the faculty members who are involved. And also, I would like to thank all the students, the research scholars, and all the colleagues. Okay, thank you, everyone, one and all. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to have an online interaction with you during this time of COVID-19. I hope and wish all of you are safe during this time. Okay, so today I am presenting an overview on the vaccine science in our country, in India. So we named it as the vaccine science in India. And myself, my name is Vasanth. I am from JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty. Well, so for today's presentation, I have kept as an overview, uh, quite an superficial topic. I have not went into the details of the technology, but I will be able to interact with you about some technical details if that is needed, because I understand the crowd may be a mixed group of people. So I thought it will be wise enough to keep it as simple as possible. So that's what I try to keep, and it will be a more generalized topic. I hope you are not disappointed with that, but I will be very happy to have an interaction with you now or in the future. All right. So with that note, I would like to go to the slides. I'm changing my slides. I hope you are able to view it. If there is any problem, please let me know at any point of time. Or if you have anything to discuss, you can feel free to please stop me in between. So I have changed my slides. Can I please confirm that all of you are able to see my presentation?
Yes, Dr. Vasanth, yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. With respect to India, we are the vaccine program in India is one of the successful programs which our country has. All of you will be aware of World Health Organization, WHO. So the WHO has taken one of the major initiatives of immunization programs throughout the world, and every country has their own immunization programs. There were a lot of deliberations and meetings which has been going on in WHO for all the past years, and also is presently going on to how to have a better immunization program throughout the world to reach all the countries. When they find it quite comfortable to cater the needs of an advanced country, there was always a challenge when there is an immunization program being introduced to countries or underdeveloped countries or developing countries or highly populated countries. So that was a kind of a challenge and a question mark which the WHO really doubted. But to everyone's surprise, we can be very proud to say, even though India is still a developing country and also our population is very high, but still we have a very successful immunization program. So if you have any opportunity to speak about the success of our country regarding to science, then immunization program will be one of the best examples which you can say. Other than science, of course, post office, Indian Post is one of the best examples, or Indian Railways can be a fantastic examples which we can highlight and goes on. So with respect to the immunization program, our country has done a fantastic job and is always doing their best. So it all started to channelize in the year of 1980, around 1978 to be precise. But even before that, there were programs of vaccination, but not under a proper protocol-based government control. It came under the central government policy in 1978 in an immunization program, which is named as Expanded Program of Immunization, EPI, which directly comes under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare by the government of India and the central government. Again, with the advice of the WHO, we have expanded the program into a next level, and we named it as an Universal Immunization Program, which is called as UIP. So UIP is still now we call it as UIP in India. Although it is a national level controlled immunization program, we named it as Universal Immunization Program, UIP. UIP is one of the successful models of our India, and now we are one of the leading countries with a very successful model of immunization, which we cover all the children of our country. Oh, all right. So we have a set of vaccines which is coming under this national immunization program, which is called as a scheduled vaccines. So you will be all aware of these vaccines. Because of our family members or children who have been vaccinating through this vaccination program. Again, WHO has their own vaccination program, and every country has their own vaccination programs. And this is the vaccination program of our country. And I just wanted to add a point. The vaccination program will slightly change from country to country, and also the vaccination program will slightly change from the state to state, and also it can vary from one region to another region. For example, if there is a particular disease which has been highly reported in a particular geographical location, then that particular area can have an extra vaccination which can be included in the immunization schedule. But at the same time, when there is some other region which do not have any reported cases, then one particular vaccine may be removed from the immunization schedule. So the table which I have program. So at birth we give BCG. Many countries do not give BCG. Many advanced countries do not give BCG. They different combinations of 5 combinations of a vaccine which we have, which we give to our children at the 6 weeks time. Pneumococcal conjugated vaccines, and we have measles vaccines, rubella vaccines, diphtheria vaccines, pertussis and tetanus vaccines, which are some of the most successful models of vaccines which we follow. Followed by at 5 years, we have a DPT booster dosing vaccines. And also for an adult and for pregnant mothers, we do have tetanus and diphtheria based vaccines and booster dose, which is given for pregnant mothers of Indian population. I have given details of a few important points of every vaccines, but I'm not going to read it. But it is for the benefit of the audience. If you would like to have basic understanding of these vaccines, I will be happy enough to share you these slides at a later point of time. We will just run through the slides. So the same thing which I told you, the BCG, I have mentioned about the vaccine. I mentioned about the route of administration, where it is given and when it is given. For example, it is given at birth, and also as early as 1 year of a baby's growth. And oral polio, OPV, is given at birth and also followed by 6, 10, and 14 weeks respectively. So like that, I have highlighted for the other vaccines. This is another successful area where our Indian pharmaceutical industries have come out with a very successful models of an vaccine, recombinant vaccines in this market, where we are one of the leading suppliers of this vaccine throughout the world, as compared to the other vaccines, including the pentavalent or the rabies vaccine or DPT, which I will share to you in the next coming slides. Okay, so like this, I have highlighted about individual vaccines which has been already available in India, and it has been already under the program of UIP, and it has been followed from the year 1985. When you have an opportunity to walk into any small healthcare unit at a district level, definitely they will have the basic facility to reach the vaccination of the children. Probably some of the choice vaccines, for example, if you take an example of a chicken pox, that is not coming under a compulsory vaccination schedule, but it is like a choice. Like if any parent, as a parent, if you would like to give your child a chicken pox vaccine, you can go for that. Okay, so like that, our government has also have a list of vaccines which are coming under a choice. Like if it is needed or if the doctor advises, then the parents can make a decision whether they can go for the vaccine or not. So I have covered the type of vaccines, the dosage, and the route of administration for each type of vaccines which comes under the UIP. Okay, the FIPV stands for the polio vaccine. The previous example which I showed you is the oral polio, but this one is an injection form of an polio, which is given as an intradermal injection at 14 weeks of a child, and it is an killed vaccine of the polio virus. And also the measles and the mumps vaccines are very successful models in India. The Japanese encephalitis and the DPT vaccines, the diphtheria, tetanus, and the pertussis vaccines. And for adult, again, we do have tetanus and diphtheria as a repeated dose for adolescents, and also for pregnant women we follow in our country, which is given as an intramuscular injection. And on repeated pregnancy, the doctor will be able to decide how many booster dose that does a pregnant woman will require, depending upon the duration between two different pregnancies. All right, so that's about the vaccination schedule which I wanted to share, which is followed by the Indian government. Okay, now coming to the second part of my lecture, as an industry person, I am from the pharmaceutical background, and basically I'm not a clinical doctor, so we involve in production and manufacturing of vaccines, and we are more associated with pharmaceutical industries, where we manufacture vaccines, where we work in the research and development of new vaccine technologies, and we also work with the different pharmaceutical companies and the biopharmaceutical companies for the development of vaccines. So that's our role. We play a role behind the screens. All right, so I just thought it will be worthwhile to share about some of the manufacturing units which we have, and to highlight you about our capacity of what we can do. Okay, so that as an educational university or in college, it will be worthwhile for you to have a better understanding of our capabilities to produce vaccines, to manufacture vaccines. As you know, the current trend, we have a problem of a demand to supply need, where we are not able to supply the required quantity of COVID or vaccines, and so we should also know what is our capacity. So that's the reason I thought when we speak about vaccine science in India, it will be really good enough when we have an opportunity to discuss about the manufacturing units. So I need to draw a line here, because in India there are several companies who manufacture vaccines, and also we have something called as a multinational companies. We call it as MNCs. So the multinational companies may have a collaborator in India, and see, for example, the company may be in United States, but the company may have an MOU with an Indian company, and then they will give their concept, means they will give the technology on how they are producing their vaccines, that particular vaccine. And then they have to share their protocol, the procedures. When they share their protocols and the procedures, the Indian collaborator will be able to produce the same vaccine here. That is possible. Okay, so I need to draw a line where to stop it. So I finally decided I will discuss about only the industries which we have in our state of Tamil Nadu right now, where we are physically. So that's my idea. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge that we do have very successful vaccine manufacturing units in other parts of our country also, which if anyone wanted to discuss, we will be happy enough to share our thoughts. Okay, the first one is in our district, our neighboring district, the Nilgiris. Coimbatore and Nilgiris are neighboring districts. So we have a Pasteur Institute of India in Kunnur. So many of you would have already known this, or you would have at least seen this when you have an opportunity to visit the botanical garden in Kunnur. It is just beside or just opposite to the botanical garden. Okay, the Sims Park. The Sims Park in Kunnur, just opposite to the Sims Park, we have the Pasteur Institute of India. This is considered as one of the oldest manufacturing unit of vaccines. Okay, this is around 112 years old. 112 years old institute which can manufacture vaccines, and they have a very good capacity. It started in the British time, and they are very successful for the vaccine program of our country and supporting the vaccine program of the country. And Pasteur Institute is named after the great scientist Louis Pasteur, and they do have Pasteur Institute throughout the world. There are around 10 Pasteur Institutes, probably, or less than 10 institutes. And India, Kunnur is one of the place where we can be really proud of having a Pasteur Institute. And they have an ability to have a manufacturing of vaccines at a larger scale. For example, from their website, we understand the existing capacity of Pasteur Institute. They have an ability to produce 400 lakh doses of DPT vaccine. They can produce 300 lakh doses of tetanus toxoid vaccine and 150 lakhs doses of diphtheria toxoid vaccines. They have that much capacity. But right now, the plant is under renovation for a next level. Of course, they have already done it, and they have also submitted their proposal for the inspection of our governing body for their approval, and they have been already completed the visit for the plant, the manufacturing plant. So this manufacturing plant is actually going to the next level, where they wanted to increase their capacity of manufacturing. And once they are getting the approval, they will go for an installed new level of manufacturing capacity, where Pasteur Institute of India will be able to manufacture. They're also very famous for the rabies vaccines, and a few of the vaccines, initial vaccines, where they were the leading model of proposed vaccine technology throughout the country. And they're one of the prestigious vaccine manufacturing units which we have. The next one, again in the same district of Nilgiris, is called as an Human Biologicals Limited, or an institute. This one is in Ooty, in Nilgiris in Ooty. We have an second industry which can manufacture vaccines. I'm concentrating only the industries which can manufacture vaccines, not the drugs, not chemotherapeutic medicines. I'm speaking about only biological vaccines. Okay, so the second one is immunologicals. They come in two different names. One is called as an Indian immunologicals, and second one is called as an human biologicals. So they have a head office in Hyderabad, and then they have a branch in Ooty. Okay, and also they do have some branches in New Zealand. Okay, they have a collaborator in New Zealand, as I told you, like what an MNC company does. So similarly, they do have a collaborator in New Zealand, and they have two different plants in Andhra Pradesh, in AP, or in Telangana, where they have a very big plant where they can expand for a large scale of vaccine production. And to your knowledge, maybe all of you, or maybe some of you may be already aware that the Indian immunologicals have signed an agreement with Bharat Biotech for transfer of technology. Like I already told you, research institute. There are many research institutes where we come out with the new concepts on how to develop vaccines. But we cannot develop it in a larger scale. I mean to say, we cannot produce 10 lakh vaccines and we cannot supply. So what we do, we sign an agreement with a pharmaceutical company, and then we sell our technology. So that is called as technology transfer. That's what we do. That's what the academic people do, and that is what the small research units do. So we do have a lot of research departments which is working on vaccines, which I have not covered. But I can tell you orally. For example, we have National Institute of Immunology, and we have Indian Institute of Science. They do have separate departments which works on vaccinology, and when they come out with the new concepts, they will sell it to a pharmaceutical industry. In a similar way, from one pharmaceutical industry can sign an agreement with a second pharmaceutical industry. That's what Indian immunologicals have done. They have signed an agreement with Bharat Biotech for the manufacturing of Covaxin vaccine, which is used for COVID-19 pandemic situation, right? So they are going to start or the process in another couple of months. They will be able to release the first batch of the Covaxin vaccines, which has been manufactured in Indian immunologicals, but it is manufactured for Bharat Biotech. Okay, and then the third one, which we have in our state, the reason for including Indian immunologicals, even though they are in Hyderabad, is the main office, but still, since they have a plant in Ooty, the plant in Ooty is one of the largest supplier of anti-rabies vaccines. They supply to all the different industries throughout the country, and also they export the vaccines for 50 different countries. They are one of the largest producers of vaccine in India. So the Ooty plant is one of the first plant in India which came out with a cell culture based anti-rabies vaccine. See, for example, for some of you in the science background, initially when they wanted to develop a rabies vaccine, they give it in sheep brain, and the animal models were the only model in which the rabies virus has to be injected into the brain of a sheep, and then they develop the vaccines. But later on, it was the Indian immunologicals which came out with the technology of using a cell culture, and they infect the virus in a cell culture, and they grow the virus in a cell culture, and from there they develop the anti-rabies vaccine, which is also followed by the Pasteur Institute. So they are one of the leading or the first company in the India, and also the second company throughout the world which came out with a cell culture based anti-rabies vaccine. So that is the reason they are quite confident of going ahead with Covaxin, because Covaxin is also produced in a similar way of cultivating the virus in a cell culture and then treating it as a killed vaccine at a later point of stage. All right. So the third one in our state we have in Chengalpattu is called as an integrated vaccine manufacturing complex, which is called as an HLL Biotech. Maybe you heard of this because it came in the news for the last couple of days, and our chief minister of the new government also visited the HLL Biotech 2 days back or yesterday, if I'm right, yesterday or day before yesterday, he had a visit to the HLL Biotech in Chengalpattu, and then the state government has written a letter to the central government of India to give them permission to start the manufacturing of vaccines at this plant. Okay, this plant is one of the biggest manufacturing plant which we have in our state. Okay, this is started around 10 years back, but very unfortunately, this plant is not started producing vaccine on a larger scale. Okay, so they have the plant ready, and they have the capacity to produce all these vaccines which are highlighted. The pentavalent you saw in the immunization schedule, the hepatitis you saw in the immunization schedule, all the vaccines, the hemophilus influenza vaccine, the rabies, the measles and the rubella vaccine, Japanese encephalitis and the BCG vaccine. They have the capacity to produce all the vaccines. So because they have a very huge unit of a vaccine manufacturing department in Chengalpattu, but they are not able to start the process because of various diplomatic reasons or probably some other government processes. And also, they have written to the government that the facility which they have will be best suitable for the Covaxin vaccine, again from the Bharat Biotech, where they have invited the government, because Bharat Biotech in combination with ICMR is a government approved vaccine which is developed as an indigenous in our country, as you are all well aware of that, which we are reading in the newspapers for the past 1 year almost. So they have requested the government to transfer the technology so that they will be able to start the production of the vaccine. But still they need minimum of 100 crores to have a modification of the plant, which will need to suitable for the development of an Covaxin based vaccine manufacturing unit. So that's the reason our state government has written a letter to the central government to give them sufficient funding and immediate access to the vaccine manufacturing unit, where we will be able to produce good amount of vaccines, which will be able to support our demand and supply at the moment. And the next one which I would like to share is the King's Institute in Chennai. Maybe some of you are aware of this. This is one of the oldest institute which we have in Chennai, and this is actually 10 years older to Pasteur Institute. The first institute which I introduced, the Pasteur Institute, is in the year of 1907. This one is 10 years back to that. They have established 122 years back. 122 years back, again through the British. And this King's Institute is one of the prestigious institute, and this institute has been recognized by the WHO. This institute has been recognized by the Archaeological Society, and this institute has been announced as an heritage structure or heritage building of our state and of our country. Okay, and this institute is also one of the institute which is involved in the smallpox vaccine production long back in 1960s and in the 1970s. Okay, like 50 years back, and they were the manufacturers and suppliers of smallpox throughout the country. So it was from King's Institute, every smallpox vaccine has been distributed to different parts of the country, and that is their biggest success story. And even now people in Chennai and in and around Chennai has a lot of respect and belief in the King's Institute. And right now they do not manufacture vaccines, but they do have an successful hospital which is running, and they have right now they have a completely COVID center of King's Institute in Chennai. Maybe you would have read it in newspapers that people are waiting in long queues to have their admission in King's Institute. This happened last year also, and even now, that even if there is an empty bed in other hospitals, but people.
அது உனக்கு தோசை தட்டா தோசையா இட்லி இதா ரைட் சார்மா வா
even sorry for that, even in if there is an empty bed in other hospitals, the people are waiting in queues to get admitted in King's Institute. So that is the prestigious institute which we have in our state. So these are the four institutes which I wanted to cover. As I told you, I just wanted to draw a line or on where we wanted to stop. So I thought it will be worthwhile to stop within the industries of Tamil Nadu. But at the same time, I just wanted to say that there are institutes which are in Hyderabad. Like for example, you will be aware of Bharat Biotech, you'll be aware of Santa Biotech. We have institutes in Bangalore. For example, Biocon is a very famous pharmaceutical company in Bangalore, and we do also have other biological companies in Bangalore. We have institutes of Serum Institute, for example, in Pune, is the one which is responsible for the Covishield. They are one of the very prestigious, similar to what I explained you for the King's and the Past Institute. So Serum Institute is one of the oldest, and they are also the one of the largest supplier of vaccine. You will be surprised to know that like out of 3 children in this world, not in India, out of 3 children in this world would have received at least one vaccine which is manufactured by Serum Institute. Serum Institute is the largest manufacturing vaccine in the whole world. And that's the reason AstraZeneca has signed an agreement with Serum. That's the reason the Moderna has signed an agreement with Serum. That is the reason every foreign companies wants to sign an agreement with Serum, because they have the capacity, they have the experience, and they have a larger handling unit and cold chain supply, which is very important for vaccine manufacturing and transport. So Serum has their experience, and India has a strong experience in handling of vaccines for a pretty long period of time. This is not a new thing for India. We have already handled several conditions. We have a successful immunization program. So it is not like this is the first time that we are able to manufacture, or this is only the first time where all the world countries are having a look at India. No, it's not that. We already have a very strong base in immunology and vaccinology, mainly in manufacturing. We have that experience. That's the reason the foreign people are coming to us, because of our past experience. So for our past experience, I would like to give you 2 success stories. The first success story is of smallpox, and the second success story is of polio. Okay, we can be proud as an Indian if someone is asking a question that we are not able to handle COVID. That's true. That's a pandemic which we are really struggling, of course, because of the demand and supply. But once we open up the vaccine centers in Chengalpattu, or we open up the vaccine centers in other industries, we will be able to meet the demand of the population and the requirement of Covaxin or the Covishield vaccines. But at the same time, we have a strong success story. We have a strong immunization program. See, there are 2 programs which are very successful throughout the world, and one is called a smallpox eradication. It's called as an eradicate smallpox, and the second program is called as a pulse polio. You will be all aware of the pulse polio, because maybe definitely we would have taken it, or in our family we would have given pulse polio to our children. Okay, and this is again a very successful model. So these 2 diseases are again viral based diseases, where humans are able to come out with a very successful model of an immunization program. Smallpox is a very deadly disease. From the pictures, you can understand this is a very dangerous disease, and which has a very high rate of death. It is around mortality rate is around 35 to 40%. The person who survived will be blind, or the person who survived will be completely disfigured. You will not be able to identify the person. That much will be the physical damage to the person. So it is a deadly disease. And we all know about the story of Edward Jenner and the cowpox, which I do not want to go into that. But the smallpox vaccination was one of the successful vaccination program which is done by the WHO and which was followed throughout the world. And India also followed it in 1960s. And I told you, like the King's Institute, the previous slide, that's the reason I wanted to explain about smallpox. And they supplied smallpox throughout the country. And in the year of 1975, I think most of us would not be born that time. I don't know, maybe there will be some seniors here. They may be able to share their experience. But in the year of 1975, we completely eradicated smallpox from our country. And in the year of 1977, it was almost completely eradicated from the Asian continent. And in the year of 1977, the last case was reported in Bangladesh and Somalia in the African continent. And after that, that was the last smallpox virus case which was reported. And after the 3 years, the WHO had a very serious monitoring surveillance system to check if there is anyone who is infected with smallpox, and we didn't get any single reported. So in the year of 1980, in the month of May, the WHO announced the first disease to be completely eradicated from the earth is a smallpox. So India plays a very, very important role because we already came across this pandemic in the 1970s. And I have displayed one of the advertisement which is mentioned in the 70s. You can imagine they're ready to give 1,000 rupees in the 1970s, in which it is a highly valuable amount for anyone who is coming forward to report a case of a smallpox. So they had a door-to-door vaccination program. Dr. Donald Henderson from the United States of America was the head of the program for smallpox. And he is the one who worked tirelessly for 10 years for the eradication of smallpox from this earth. And we were successful. We had a door-to-door campaign. They go to every village. At that time, India is actually not having that much of a good transport system, but still the medical field, the immunization officers, the health care department, the support staffs, they all played a fantastic role in the eradication of smallpox. So if you wanted to share a story of the success of our country in vaccine science, then smallpox eradication will be a best example. And it is not now, it is in year of 1970s. So 1970s itself, we had a very, very successful model of for immunization. We didn't have much technology. We don't have much transport system, but still we were successful. One of the reasons for that, there may be multiple reasons. One of the reasons maybe can be an argument the population is less, but even then the population is relatively high compared to the other countries, even in the 1970s. And also another positive reasons could be the number of variants, the genetic variants of the smallpox were limited, and that's the biggest advantage we had. And another advantage is that the vaccine did not have an cold storage conditions. The vaccine is in a freeze-dried form. So that was a very, very great success story from the pharmaceutical point of view, where we were able to take the vaccines to any part of the world without much problems. So right now there is no smallpox. Okay, in the whole earth there is no smallpox, and luckily there is no intermediate animal source to carry the pox virus. The smallpox virus cannot be carried through bat, or it cannot be carried through animals like pigs or camels. So it cannot spread like SARS. It cannot spread like MERS virus or influenza virus, H1N1. No, it cannot do that. So that is another reason we were able to come out with a very successful immunization throughout the world. The second successful immunization we had as a human race is polio. Again, India has a very important role in the eradication of polio in the Pulse Polio program. And WHO announced in the year of 2014, India has successfully come out of polio. And after the year of 2014, we do not have a single case reported of polio in our country. We can be really proud of the 2 immunization programs of vaccine science in our country. But still, we follow the polio vaccination. We follow both the oral polio, and we also follow the injection form of a polio for our children less than 5 years of age. The reason for that is that the disease was eradicated in the year 2014. As per the WHO suggestions, they have strongly advised our country to continue the polio vaccination drive. And also it depends upon the individual vaccine policy of a particular country. See, for example, the polio has been removed from 98% of the world, except our neighboring countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh. There are few reports of polio reported in Pakistan, and there are few cases of polio reported in Bangladesh. That could be also another reason the WHO wanted India to continue the polio vaccination program. Once the polio, the surveillance of polio follow-up in the countries of Pakistan and Bangladesh, if they report 0 cases for the next 3 years' time, then the WHO will announce the second successful eradication of a virus from this earth. So these two are the positive news. I know this is a very tough time, and we look around, we always get a lot of negative reports. So if you wanted a positive story, these two stories will be the most positive stories, where not where throughout the earth we were able to eradicate 2 big viruses, and one of the deadliest form of an smallpox virus, which we are able to overcome, and that's how we all survive today. And this is about smallpox. I again don't want to read it, but if someone wants a technical detail, we can have a look into that. And but at the same time, also to be an biotechnologist, or for a people of a science background, you should be also aware of the improvements in the field of technology, and you should be also aware of the different possibilities in the near future, because we never know. Although I was very positive in explaining about the immunization program, at the same time that I need to also give a warning about the upcoming challenges. See, the upcoming challenges is that you might have read in newspapers about a biological warfares. There could be possibility of a biological warfare, and people already have expected that if there is a world war which is coming up, definitely it is not going to be atomic bombs, it is not going to be chemical weapons, but it has to be biological. Okay, so that's the future. But at the same time, I do not want to scare you up. But our awareness should be updated. So that's the reason I wanted to say. So even though we have completely eradicated the disease smallpox from the public communities of human beings, but still we do have the virus in our labs. See, there are 2 labs in the world which I wanted to share the knowledge for the students' benefit. There is a lab in the United States of America, which is called as a CDC lab in Atlanta, Georgia. They have the samples of smallpox. And also we have a lab called as a vector lab in Russia, previously United States, USSR, sorry, United Soviet Union, right? So they also have a lab called as a vector lab of virology and biotechnology. They also have a sample of smallpox. So you might have read about a Cold War between the United States and the United Russia. Similarly, the Cold War is in a sleeping state, I would say. Like, see, for example, the Americans have the smallpox virus, the Russians have the smallpox virus, okay, and Americans also have the smallpox vaccine. Okay, even though the world has stopped the smallpox vaccine, the Americans do not give a smallpox vaccine to their citizens, but they do have smallpox vaccines under the special program, which is called as a strategic national stockpile. They call it as a strategic national stockpile, where they produce good amount of smallpox vaccine, and they give the vaccine to the frontline military people. For example, military officers or navy officers, they do give them some vaccines. They have a reserve of vaccine manufacturing. And with respect to Russia, we never know whether they do have a policy to have a smallpox vaccine as an emergency use. We never know. So, but the rest of the countries do not have any viral samples with them. So there is always a debate whether this virus has to be completely killed, or whether should we have a sample in the lab. There is a two different approach. We can argue on that. There will be definitely two different groups. Again, from the scientific community, there may be a group which supports that the virus has to be maintained in a very controlled environment, because we never know in the future what will happen. We may come out with a new disease. We may come out with a mutated type of an pox virus, where we will need the smallpox to develop vaccines. Yes, that's true. At the same time, there's another group which wanted to argue that there may be countries who may use the smallpox as a biological warfare. So we have to completely eradicate the virus. It means that we have to decontaminate and kill the virus. We should not have it in this earth. So there are two different arguments, but for your understanding, we do have two samples in this world, okay, officially. All right, so that's the information I wanted to share about the success story of our Indian country in the immunization program, and the success story of smallpox, and the success story of polio. Okay, and coming to COVID, I do not want to take a long time for COVID, for the reason for the past 1 year we are already too much super saturated with too many messages. For example, WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, and Instagram messages. You just name it. Okay, you have a lot of messages on COVID, okay, on coronavirus. So I do not want to make it more complicated, and so I don't have any slides on COVID. I don't know, maybe that is what you were expected, but I just kept one or two slides. Actually, this is the only slide on COVID. So I am not going to explain about COVID, but I will be very happy to discuss about COVID. What you if you wanted to ask anything related to the manufacturing or technology or related to COVID. Okay, and you already know about this, because the good thing is, for the past 1 year, the people has been highly educated. If you take it in a positive way, even a non-science person, or an arts related person, or it can be even a person who didn't had much of an education, they do know about COVID vaccines. So that is because of technology. And people speak about phase trials. People speak about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. That is really a very good news. Okay, so for your understanding, there are a list of vaccines, more than 100 candidates or different pharmaceutical companies who are coming out with COVID vaccines. Okay, but only some of them are entered into human studies, means clinical trials. In clinical trials, there are some of the companies who are very successful. For example, let us look into our country. You will be very well aware that our country has a very successful vaccine from Biotech. It is an indigenously prepared vaccine. Okay, Covaxin, right? So Covaxin is an inactivated whole virion. The whole virion of the coronavirus is cultivated in a cell line, and it has been killed by a chemical method, and then later on it has been done for the testing of immunogenicity, whether it is able to produce an immune response. At the same time, to prove its safety, that it is not causing any kind of a pathogenicity. So the science students will be able to understand there are two terms which is called as immunogenicity, the ability of the body to produce an immune response, and at the same time it should not be a pathogen. It means that it should not cause a disease. Okay, so that's the line. So they do have a vaccine from Bharat Biotech. We also have a successful vaccine from AstraZeneca through the Oxford University technology transfer, and we have a successful vaccine which is called as an Covishield, which is manufactured from Serum Institute. The Covishield is an viral based recombinant vaccine where they have the small part of the spike protein. You know the coronavirus structure, and the outer surface has a protein which is called as a spike protein. So they take out the part of the spike protein and load it into another virus which is called as an adenovirus, and then they use it as an injection. Okay, so that's a vaccine called as a viral vector. So the adenovirus carries the spike protein coding sequences, and once it enters into our cell, it will produce the respective antigenic proteins, and our body will be able to recognize it. So when a real infection comes, our body will be able to produce the memory cells and have a quicker action to counteract the coronavirus. That's the idea. The Sputnik follows the same mechanism. The only difference is the Sputnik uses two different viral vectors for as a carriers, but whereas AstraZeneca and the Serum Institute uses a single vector for both the doses. Sputnik uses two different viral vectors. And other successful vaccines in this world are Moderna vaccine from the United States, and also the Pfizer-based vaccine. Both are mRNA-based vaccines, which is successful in the Western world. Okay, and the Chinese are also having a successful CanSino vaccine and Sinopharma vaccine, which is again same like our Indian type. One is an inactivated Sinopharma, and another one is a viral vector-based CanSino vaccine. Both these vaccines are quite successful. And also we have the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, which has been successful throughout the world. So these are the vaccines which we have. The only problem which we have right now is that we do not know how long the vaccines will act, because we are still have to do the long-term efficacy studies. So that's something which no one will be able to answer it. So we have to wait and see whether our antibody response is going to act for 1 year or 2 years or 6 months or 10 years or lifelong. We never know. Okay, so whether we need booster dose, how many booster doses are needed, that is again something which is still under research. Okay, so I will skip this slide. This is an mRNA-based vaccine, protein-based vaccines. If anything wanted to question on that later on, I can use it. And also the vaccine development process, I'm going to skip this also, but I just wanted to say a simple thing like we develop the technology in academic institute, and then we do the preclinical trials in cell cultures, and then later on we do the trials in animal models. And once we have a very good safety profile, we check for immunogenicity profile. And once our safety and immunogenicity is proved, then we make it into a formulation and again test it in cell lines and again test it in animal models. Once that is done, we give it for approval for the CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, New Delhi, and they give the approval whether can we go for clinical trials or not. So we go for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 clinical trials. Phase 1, we do it for a general healthy population to see whether it is safe, and also whether any immune response is produced or not produced. We check for antibody response, we check for T cell response, check for B cell response. And if it is successful, we increase the population from 100 to 500, we go for a phase 2 trial. If that is successful, we go for a phase 3 trial, which is a multi-center trial. For example, a population in Bombay, a population in New York, or a population within India, Chennai, Bombay, Kolkata, like that, we can have a multi-hospital approach. And then it comes to the market, where we also do something called as a post-marketing survey, which is also called as a phase 4 clinical trial. And in the meantime, we also give the approval submission to the government again to CDSCO, whether can we go for the approval process. So that's the process in India. If you wanted to sell it in United States, we need to get approval of an FDA. And for Europe, we have an European Commission where we need to submit our application to get an approval for use of a vaccine in the particular population. So vaccines are definitely very effective, and they definitely save life. And that's the reason I shared you the example of polio, and I shared you the example of smallpox. So with that, I will finish my talk. I will be happy for an interaction with anyone who wanted to discuss with me on the particular topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor, for the wonderful presentation. Participants, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourselves and you can ask a question directly to the speaker.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm asking this question on your presentation was really very excellent. It has thrown light on the vaccination in India. Really proud of our country about the inventions. My question is on behalf of all the student participants. Suppose if the students from life science background, if they want to get into the research and the production of vaccine, how do they approach the industry?
Life science background?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Thanks, ma'am. Well, for students from life science background, you have to. Suppose you are an undergraduate. If you are an undergraduate student, then you have a good choice to go for production. For example, production of vaccines like manufacturing. Manufacturing of vaccines, there is always a demand. Where an undergraduate in life science is definitely eligible to apply. See, for example, a person from a science background or biochemistry or biotechnology or probably even bioinformatics and any kind of a science degree, little bit of a biological background will be able to join for the production department of production and manufacturing. But they will not be able to go for a research setup in R&D. See, for example, in industry, we have research and development R&D, where they would prefer a postgraduate or they would prefer a PhD or a postdoc fellowship person. But on a longer run, if a person is having a good interest in research, and if they prove it, they can jump from production to R&D. That is definitely possible to do that. So for undergraduate, I would recommend manufacturing and production. For postgraduate, I would recommend they can go for research and development. Of course, postgraduates can also go for manufacturing and marketing, and also quality control, QC and QA. That is another area where we test each vaccine before they come out from batch to batch. So they are 100% eligible to apply. And also some of the industries will have a trainee position. See, for example, Pasteur Institute has a trainee position where people can apply and go and get training on how to produce rabies vaccines. That is possible. So they can apply for a trainee position, but trainee position may not get any salary. It depends on the policy of the particular company. But after they complete the training, they can enter as an employee. That is possible. So these are the two routes.
Yeah, how do they get the job notifications?
Notifications, we have to watch it in probable newspapers or in an online forum. If, for example, for the Chengalpattu plant in Tamil Nadu, there are already openings. Because the Chengalpattu plant is something which is a new plant of vaccine manufacturing. So if someone wanted to have an approach for Chengalpattu plant, they can definitely go to their website and they can apply. And they will definitely having an HR email ID where they can send their applications. And if they're successful, they can enter into that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So, Dr. Vasanth, there is a question from Abhinav Bharati. They've asked, can we get one dose of Covishield and another of Covaxin?
No, okay. No, it is not technically correct to do that. We cannot have it because the Covishield is an vector-based vaccine which works in a different mechanism, and Covaxin is a total virion killed vaccine, so that works in a different way. So we cannot take the first dose of Covishield and second dose of Covaxin, or vice versa. We should not do that. If that is done, that is actually a mistake. So suppose someone is taking Covishield first dose, and then if they take Covaxin as a second dose, then actually the Covaxin is considered as a first dose. So they have to go for the third dosing with Covaxin, whichever they took it on the second time. So that is actually a mistake which is done by the particular healthcare unit, which should not be done.
Okay. There's one more question, Dr. Vasanth. Can we develop oral vaccine for COVID-19?
Yes, definitely. There may be possibility to produce an oral vaccine, and you might have read that even Bharat Biotech is trying for a nasal route for a vaccine delivery model, a nasal drops kind of a vaccine. So definitely it is possible, but generally put it on a general view. See, for example, let us take an example of polio. The oral vaccine is a live vaccine. It's a live attenuated. We call it as a live attenuated. It means that the virus is the living state, but the virus cannot cause any disease. So that is called as a live attenuated. Those kind of vaccines we give it in a oral route. But nowadays, considering the current situation, if a company comes out with an oral vaccine, the success rate of patient compliance, I mean to say, the acceptance of the patient will be quite challenging because of a lot of rumors or misinformation which is being spreaded of taking an oral vaccine. So, but it is possible. Generally, a live vaccine is given as an oral, live attenuated.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vasanth. There's another question. Which vaccine will be safe, whether Covishield or Covaxin?
Well, both are safe. Both have proved their safety. See, I told you already, like when a pharmaceutical company goes for the vaccine trial, the first thing we have to prove is the safety. We need not prove whether the vaccine is effective or not. We need not prove the efficacy. We need not prove the immunogenicity. But what we have to prove is we have to prove whether the vaccine is safe or not safe. So that is the first step. That is the foundation stone which we do in the vaccine manufacturing. So whether it is a cell culture based or whether it is an animal based, or when we do it in an in vitro cell culture lab, you have to prove the safety. And if you do it in animals, we have to prove the safety. And when we submit to for clinical trials in CDSCO or FDA, we have to first report we have to give is a safety report. So the first thing they check is the safety profile. So it has to prove the safety. Once it is safe, only then we have to prove whether it is immunogenic or not. How long is the efficacy? How long it is going to protect? Will it produce T cell response, cell mediated response or not? Does it produce immunoglobulin B cell response or not? Those are the second and fourth and the fifth questions. But the first question is safety. So both the vaccines approve the safety in phase one, both the vaccines approve the safety in phase two, and both the vaccines approve the safety in phase three. Only then they will come to the market. So both the vaccines are absolutely safe. Not only this vaccine, the Sputnik is safe, the Chinese vaccine is safe, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine. Every vaccine is safe. See, but at the same time, I wanted to also add a point. Like, see, for example, one in 10 lakh people may have a particular allergic reaction towards a particular vaccine. That is not only for COVID. That is not only for Covishield. It is for any vaccine. See, for example, when we go to a vaccination for our children, the doctor says you may get fever next day. The child may get fever. So please don't worry. So that's the message the doctor shares. So it means that every vaccine has a chance to have a mild kind of reaction. That is possible. That is not only for a corona type of vaccine, can be for any other vaccine. So that risk is always there, but the benefit will actually overtake the risk. Because of the risk in 1 in 10 lakhs, we cannot stop the vaccination program. We have to continue that.
Okay. Okay. Some
Probably,
similar
probably
kind of.
if someone is having a heart issue, a cardiac patient, or a diabetic, or a pregnant woman, they will be needed to go for an approval from the respective family physician or a cardiologist or an diabetologist according to the condition. And after their approval, they may be able to take a vaccine. But now Covishield has been given to many pregnant women, and they're already, the government has approved to give it.
Okay, Dr. Vasanth, thank you. There's a similar kind of question. They say that Covishield is effective than Covaxin. Is that true, sir?
It's quite debatable, I would say. Say, for example, again, it goes to the mechanism by which they act. Covishield is an viral vector-based vaccine, and Covaxin is an killed vaccine, viral vaccine. So there may be an argument that the level of immune response in Covishield may be slightly better compared to the Covaxin. But with respect to safety, the Covaxin will have an extra score compared to Covishield. So they will again neutralize. So it will be both effective. Both of them will be effective, but how long, that we don't know. Uh, uh, for example, we never know how long will be the immune response. So with respect to that only, we will be able to compare it. Since we do not know the answer for the third question, how long, right now we have to consider Covishield and Covaxin as equal. Maybe I can add on one good thing with Covishield extra point, maybe the number of patients who have been tested is more for Covishield, and the number of patients who have been tested is less for Covaxin. Because Covishield is a multinational study, so they have done the study in a huge population, and it started little bit earlier. So for that reason, there may be more patients who has been exposed to Covishield.
Okay, Dr. Vasanth, thank you. I have one basic question. So, although any type of vaccine that we take, why is that the reaction is differing from person to person? Like many of them, they get fever and they suffer after taking the vaccine. But some of them, they don't show any reaction. So, is there any notable difference that we need to take into consideration?
Yeah, it's quite a challenging thing to answer, because I think from a bioinformatics point of view, probably we may have to go for something like called as an pharmacogenomic based approach to know an individual variation, where we call it as a personalized medicine.
Yes.
Of course, it is coming up in the present scenario, but it is something to do with the genotypic or the phenotypic expression of an individual, which we cannot give a common reason for all the people. It depends on individual, as you said. We
Okay.
have to go with the allergic reaction or the hypersensitivity reaction of a particular person. And if a person is having an cardiac problem or having an allergic to heparin kind of an anticoagulant, so that needs to be taken care at extra level. But going back to the scientific reasons, it's quite challenging to narrow down to one particular reason. It can be multiple factors. It can be the way they metabolize, or it can be the level of their pathways. It changes from person to person.
Okay.
Quite debatable.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Vasanth, thank you. I have one more question. In your point of view, when do you think this demand will get reduced for the vaccination drive?
Maybe in another
So,
3 months time.
production.
3 months time. Because the government is already given approval for two different pharmaceutical industries. One is the Indian
Okay.
Immunologicals, and another industry in Maharashtra has also got the
Okay.
approval to produce Covaxin. So both these
Okay.
industries will be able to come out with Covaxin vaccines in another 2 months' time. And
Okay.
also the Tamil Nadu government has requested to start the manufacturing in Chennai, the Chengalpattu
Okay.
plant. So if that is
Okay.
also open, we will be able to have a good amount of vaccine supply. So maybe in another
Okay.
3 months' time, we will have good amount of vaccines. But I know
Okay.
that's a quite a challenging period.
Okay. And one more question, Dr. Vasanth, like we have the duration between two dosages, right? And
Mhm.
depending upon the demand, they increase the duration, right? So initially they said it was 4 weeks, now it is then 6 weeks, now it is 86 days. So why there is a change in this duration between two dosages, and is it going to affect do any change in the actual vaccination?
Okay, so actually when we have done when people have done the clinical trials, they have
Okay.
different groupings.
Okay.
We have to see vaccine by vaccine. For example,
Okay.
Covishield. Covishield, they have tried two different groups, like one group which is separated by 4 weeks, another group separated by 8 weeks, and another group separated by 12 weeks. And
Okay.
the clinical phase trial report says the group which has been separated for 8 weeks have a very better kind of an immune response when they have been given a booster dose. So it means that
Okay.
8 weeks is a very good time. Uh,
Okay.
uh, but at the same time, 4 weeks is not bad, and 12 weeks is not bad. But 8 weeks is the perfect time to have a very high level of an second response. I mean to say the booster response. Uh, uh,
Okay.
so, what the company suggested is they suggested a range. They suggested a range that you can give the booster dose at a minimum of 4 weeks to a maximum of 12 weeks. So that's the
Okay.
range which they have given. So initially, the Indian government suggested to take it at 4 weeks. But some of the countries, for example, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, from the starting they followed 8 weeks difference because according to their clinical data, they find 8 weeks is the best time to have a better booster dose. But this is for Covishield. This is only for Covishield. Please do not confuse with Covaxin. For Covaxin, the booster dose has to be given at 4 weeks. You cannot delay it. Because Covaxin, the booster dose response is perfect only when it is given exactly at 1 month duration. So if any of you have taken Covaxin, then your booster dose should be after 1 month. If you have taken Covishield, then if you even wait for a few more weeks, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Dr. Vasan. Thank you so much. Participants, if there are no questions, can we end the session?
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes. Yes,
Uh,
please go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, actually, for one drug development, it will take 25 years because of several steps involved to check not only the potential of a drug and also to check the safety of the drug, such as target identification to commercialization. So, and also in between, the drug undergoes some reviews by IND, by FDA, and also for the commercialization, it undergo the NDA. So, how it is possible, sir, for this invention within 1 year?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So
So
the
is so and also so is there any possibility of side effects caused by this kind of drugs? Because it can. Okay, sir. Tell me.
Yeah, got it. Thank you very much. Ma'am, the reason why we are able to come out with very shorter time is that it's actually a good question, I would say. What you said is exactly true. For most of the drugs which we have in the market, it takes a minimum of 15 to 20 years for starting from the synthesis, for the manufacturing, and for the approval processing, preclinical testing, etc. But then the
Yes.
question comes how we are able to come out very quickly for Covaxin or Covishield. The reason is this is a group of virus which is called as coronavirus. So the coronavirus is a larger family of virus which infects the respiratory tract. and the throat of humans. So the coronavirus is not a new type of virus. We already know about coronavirus, number one, and the coronavirus has been already been infected humans for a pretty long period of time, but it is depends upon the what type of variations on the coronavirus which plays the main role. And so it means that we are not unaware of this virus. We are completely aware of it, number one. The second point, we already came across a mutated type of an coronavirus, which is called as a SARS virus, SARS, SARS. This
Yes.
virus came in China 10 years back. So at that time, the pharmaceutical companies have already isolated the SARS virus, and then they have started the vaccine manufacturing. Because we know the structure of coronavirus, we also know the structure of SARS virus. So when we compare between the SARS virus and the coronavirus, we know the structure of the S protein, and we know what is the difference in the structure of the S protein. So we had a very good background knowledge of the spike protein. That's the first thing. And that's not the end of the story. After some time, there was another disease which is called as MERS, which is called as a Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS.
Yes.
You may be aware of that. So MERS came in Saudi Arabia. So MERS is also a type of an coronavirus. Whether again the pharmaceutical industries also isolated the MERS virus, and then we done the sequencing of the MERS virus, and we are able to compare the spike protein sequences of the MERS virus. So what I mean to say, our library of information regarding to coronavirus is very, very strong. Our background information of SARS virus is very strong. Our background information of MERS virus is very strong, and there have been already pharmaceutical companies who are working on SARS virus for the past 10 years. They are doing that. But now a sudden outbreak which came, which is called as SARS-2. That is the reason we call it as SARS-2. We don't call it as SARS-1 because SARS-1 already came 10 years back in China. So this is SARS-2. And in between SARS-1 and SARS-2, we also have MERS, MERS. All these three are highly interrelated. And that is the reason we have a background data for last 10 years. And once the SARS-CoV virus 2 was reported in Wuhan in the year of 2019 in the month of December, and in the month of January, the Chinese scientists were able to upload the sequences of the SARS-CoV-2 in their portal of influenza sharing portal, and immediately we have access to the SARS-CoV-2. So what the scientists have done, they have a basic data supporting for SARS virus. They have a strong scientific data supporting for the MERS virus. So what we all have to simply do is to compare the SARS virus COVID-2 with that of the previous data which we already have, 10 years data, and that immediately we are able to jump into the development of a vaccine. So that has reduced our time, and we are able to come out with a successful vaccine. That's the reason. But if suppose if the virus is a completely new type of virus, then it will be quite challenging for us to come within 2 years. But still, because of the bioinformatics, because of computational biology, we will be able to definitely reduce around 5 years time. That is possible. And also the government can give an emergency approval for simultaneous processing. Means at one stage we do the bioinformatics, computational techniques. On another side, we do the vaccine development. On simultaneously, we can also test it in an in vitro cell culture. So the government can give for an emergency approval for
Okay.
an vaccine manufacturing. That is another way by which the individual governments can reduce the time duration for vaccine development. That is possible. With respect to the side effects, again, that depends upon the individual to individual. There is no side effect because of the vaccine development. Because as I told you in the previous question, the vaccine has to go through a strong policy of safety checking. So the development process will not have any side effects, but the side effects because of the individual hypersensitivity reactions, inflammatory reactions, or coagulation factors may be possible in 10 lakh to 1 in 10 lakh ratio, which needs to be checked from an individual. I hope I answered you.
I think this kind of drugs is considered now as a generic drug, right? Generic drug.
This doesn't come under a generic drug. This is an vaccine.
Vaccine. So, okay. Sir, I have one more question. The vaccines are produced from the inactivated virion, so it exhibits the immunogenicity, not the pathogenicity. Immunogenicity means it is the ability of body to produce the immune response. Then
Exactly.
how it will produce some side effects, sir? It does not produce, it cannot exhibit any pathogenicity. Then how it can exhibit the pathogenic effect of the virus?
No, it is not. The side effect is not because of the vaccine. The side effect is because of our own immune response.
Yes.
Our own immune response is producing some kind of an inflammatory responses, which becomes as a hypersensitivity reaction. There is no pathogenicity. The side effect is the hypersensitivity reactions, which is produced in an individual.
So before drug application, we have several examination, medical examination, but we cannot take any medical examination without this medical examination. Then how can I inject this kind of vaccines, sir? Is it
Uh,
possible to the poor people?
you mean to say the examination or the delivery of vaccines?
Both.
Okay,
Sir,
with respect to coming to the examination, what the government has done at every individual health care center, they have appointed a medical officer. They call it as a medical officer. There is an availability of a medical officer at every individual unit, whether it is a small hospital or whether it is a vaccination center. It will definitely have a medical officer, and it is the responsibility and also the rights of every citizens to go and have a medical checkup with their individual medical officer, which they should ask. If they ask, definitely they will have a medical checkup before they administer the vaccine. But considering the volume of the population and the time factor, I understand they do a checking of blood pressure and maybe basic sugar level possibly, or even in sometimes they don't do the sugar level. They just do the basic blood pressure. Okay, but it is advisable if someone already having a prehistory. Suppose you take a drug and you develop an allergic reaction. If someone is having that kind of an response, then those patients has to definitely go for a medical checkup before they administer the vaccines. And as I told you previously, if someone is having a doubt of a cardiac problem, or someone is having a doubt of any other health complications or immunocompromised
அதான்
patients,
நூறு
they
நிமிஷத்துக்கு
have
நூறு
to definitely go for a medical checkup before they administer the vaccines. But if you do not have an allergic response, then it is fine.
okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your
No
valuable
problem.
suggestions.
Welcome.
Sir, what is your suggestion on this aspect? Like some says that people have to go for C-reactive protein test before they take the vaccine.
Ma'am, I think it may not be needed for everyone to go for a C-reactive protein. That may be needed for only for patients who are having a high BP, or who have a chances of a cardiac problem, or who has already had an infection of the virus. And when they are in a recovery phase, they can check the C-reactive protein, because this is an indicator for the inflammatory response. So if someone is having a problem of a cardiac problem, and if they have an exposure of the COVID virus and they are in the recovery phase after 10 days or 15 days, they can check the CRP levels. But before administration of the vaccine, there may not be a need to do that. But if someone is having a doubt that they may have a problem with their platelet or their clotting factors or cardiac related conditions, then they can do it. But generally, before vaccination, it may not be advisable, or it need not be needed. Or if someone is affordable, they can go for it.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
So any other questions from the participants? Okay, Dr. Vasanth, thank you so much for your informative speech. It was really a very, it is an eye opener, especially during this time of COVID vaccination. Actually, even we are learned and we have much knowledge in vaccination. Being a life science people, even we some of us are really scared to take vaccination because of the maybe the threats or the rumors that we come across the social media. So at this pandemic situation, your session was really an eye opener. I hope it would have cleared many of the people's doubt on vaccination, especially for COVID. Thank you so much. Um,
Thank you very
uh,
much. I would strongly advise to take vaccine as the first measure. So if you put it on order, I would say vaccine will be the first one. So definitely we have to encourage people around us to take vaccine. And the second and the third will be the mask and the social distancing or washing of our hands. But vaccine will be the first choice. So again, thank you very much, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore, and also thank you for Dr. Shivashankari for your invitation and arranging this program. And thank you for all people who are involved in this webinar. And also thanks for all the questions. Feel free to reach me if you would like to have any kind of an interaction. Thank you very much for all the management and the senior management and the principal and all the HODs and the senior staffs from the Nirmala College. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vasanth. Thank you so much. Participants, you can fill in the feedback form, and if your certificate is not generated, kindly wait for a day. You might get your certificate by tomorrow. Thank you so much. All of you, please fill up the feedback form. Dr. Vasanth, thank you so much.